Hey guys,
Howdy.
how's it
Wow.
going?
Great. As great as it can be.
So much subtext in that response. Great. Eyebrows
It's
raised.
going good here too. Yeah.
Tommy, are you in the store?
Yes. Yeah. So I was going to do it from a laptop off to the side, but I figured this is like, again, we were just talking about backgrounds, probably the best background.
Sure, sure. So,
Just
um,
go back here.
great to have you guys on. We're going to talk about your story, Tommy. That's in the newest issue of the magazine. Maria's the writer. And just for our audience that is not familiar with you guys, maybe just talk a little bit about, introduce yourself, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Maria, you go first.
Okay. I'm Maria Dickman. I live in Chicago now, but born and raised in Indianapolis. I was one of Pattern's first interns and kind of the precursor to the current fellow program. So I've worked with Polina for 6 or 7 years now, I think. So I actually met Tommy when you were fresh out of Ball State, and we had just launched something called The Bindery, which we held at the Harrison Arts Center. I don't remember what summer that was at any point, but it was kind of this pop-up incubator for fashion talent, and Tommy kind of stumbled in, and that's how we first met, and it's been awesome seeing his career grow.
Dang, I didn't realize that's when you guys met.
It's been a minute. That was probably 2013.
Yeah, the binder.
That sounds right.
Oh my God. Wow, that's a major flashback there. Okay.
Now I just
You're welcome.
Yeah.
now I just go there to drink beer and look at art.
Yeah.
Also very, very acceptable. Well, what about you, Tommy? I remember you had just graduated and you were trying to sort of figure out what you were doing, but also I feel like you already kind of knew what you wanted to do. You were just sort of
I was putting out feelers.
Yeah. Talk about a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I went to graduated high school in 2009 and went to Ball State. Graduated in 4 years. Towards the end of my tenure in college, I joined the entrepreneurship program there, which is known as this really rigorous program. I had heard kind of these crazy stories about how difficult it was, and even horror stories of people spending their last 2 years of college working on this business plan, going and presenting it to business owners, kind of a panel like Shark Tank, and then failing the course. And if they fail the course, they don't get their degree. So I was like, do I want to do this? And I knew I wanted to open a clothing store at some point, and it actually was kind of a symptom of me not knowing what I wanted to do. And I was like, I'm just going to throw it all into this. And if I can force myself through it and make it through this, maybe I'll have a better concept of my business than most people that just kind of throw together a quick business plan and open their store. So I graduated in 2013, worked for about 8 months doing things like the bindery and just trying to make connections, doing interviews with people that were involved in fashion in the city, and met up with Amanda Tafflinger from Homespun a couple of times because she had started this similar a brand with a similar ethos. And we talked a few times at the store, and she was like, hey, I think you would probably be perfect for this. I have a sublease coming up on my space in Irvington. And I had really, really bad luck in this city trying to get anyone who had a new space on Mass Ave, Fountain Square, anywhere to look at retail. I mean, it's still that way. It's restaurant. So I looked at a couple of spaces, and they were like, well, do you have pro forma numbers? Do you have this? Do you have that? And I was like, I just got out of college, and this is a startup. Just because it's not a tech startup doesn't mean it's not a good idea, but I'm not going to give you these massive numbers like a tech startup will. And people just kind of shoved me off. But we had done enough pop-ups together in her new space that she realized that I was legitimate, that I really was going to do this. I mean, I built fixtures and contacted companies and found a way to get product from them. And when I didn't even have a store, which is like the precursor to getting any product. and did those pop-ups. And she was like, I think you would be perfect for the space and you should move in. And we did. We took over and we made the space our own.
Amazing. That was like you talking for 3 minutes, but there's like so many years of like backbreaking labor and thought and research and studying that went into that. That's incredible.
Thank you. Yeah,
Congrats.
It's hard to look back on like those days when it was just a concept, because it is such a machine now. You know, it doesn't run itself, but we've figured out a method and it's going really well. So it's a good place to be in. Amazing.
So that's interesting about real estate and trying to find people who would believe in your concept. You know probably better than most that fashion retail in India is a difficult proposition, to say the least.
Yeah.
What do you attribute your success to, other than all the things that we already covered? Like, are you just working harder than everybody? Is it, what's going on there? What's the secret? What's the secret sauce?
My wife would say so. But I think it was good timing. There's a lot that happened. I mean, had I opened 3 years earlier, there was a couple stores that opened and didn't make it because they were a little too early for the market. But I think it was that combined with my risk. I was risk adverse, if I can get that word out. I was young. I was just getting out of college. I didn't have a career. I didn't have a wife and kids and things to take care of. And it was just me. If it failed, it was on me solely. But that also drove me. You know, I knew that I had to pump myself up and have conversations with myself to keep myself going, because it was 7 days a week during the holidays, you know, like working 65 days straight, 9-hour days, doing everything and anything that anyone asked just to make a buck. In an industry where like it can be the norm, but if you open in another city, people are a little more willing to latch on to your concept. So it was just a lot of that. I mean, like eating food from Blackacre and like running on empty most times, burning the candle at both ends, and getting to a place where I didn't have to do that anymore. I don't have to now, but we're still trying to innovate. And I think I still put in a lot of work. I'm here usually 5 to 6 days a week and long hours, but I think it's passion too. It was timing, passion, and a blend of like being able to risk it all.
I love that.
And I think too, the thing that I've always loved so much about your store, like even when you first started, like you're all about the story of these products. So I'm not your target demographic, but I like to shop at your store because I know where the candle's coming from. I know that if I buy this beard oil, it's got your stamp on it, and I know that you have incredible taste. You know, I'm constantly sending my friends there who are moving to Indy, or anyone who's looking for gifts. I'm like, you got to check out James Dant, and I can send you to them to your Instagram, and you break everything down on there in really easy terms. And it's such a cool thing to be able to see this entire life cycle of a product. You're not just buying something to have something or wear something, you know, you kind of buy into that.
Yeah. And I think the general concept now is, if you're going to get into retail, you have to have an online business. You have to push that. In the beginning, we didn't want that. We wanted to build those personal relationships and tell those stories. And I think we were so headstrong in that direction that we forgot to tell our story in the same way online. We were telling our story. We were showing the product and giving really good content, but not in the same way. I mean, things have evolved, obviously, like stories have changed the way Instagram functions. You can be a little more front facing with that and just kind of spur of the moment, but where you had to be a little more polished with the post. But I think that dichotomy has really helped us. And when this all happened with the quarantine, it allowed us the ability to just be like, well, we're not telling the story to people that are walking in the store anymore. Let's pick up a phone and start recording each other. So Zach and I have been doing that a lot, and it seems to be resonating with people. Even doing the little videos, like thanking people for each individual thing. I've had multiple people reach out and be like, holy crap, this is awesome. I'm just shopping vicariously. Like I don't have the money to spend right now, but it's really cool to see those products going out the door. So we're navigating our way through it.
Very cool. So do you get hit up a lot by other startup, I guess, retail brands for advice?
Yeah, here and there. Mostly in Indiana. It's been a lot of boutiques, like boutique startups. Some kids in college, I'll get hit up for advice about projects or things like that, but not as often as I not maybe not like, but just not as often as I would think I would. But I do appreciate people reaching out.
Okay, so you're not opposed to it. You're not like, hey, leave me alone. Figure it out.
No, I think people think I am because we are so busy that like they're like, hey, can we just get coffee? And I'm like, oh, getting coffee means like upending the whole machine. But I tend to try to make it work. I think it's important to like help people grow the retail industry in Indianapolis.
I appreciate that. I mean, we definitely need all the help we can get. There's, when we come out on the other side of this COVID, there'll be a lot more empty storefronts than there were when we went into it. And we have plenty of those already. So I always try to figure out like, how do we attract more retailers to open their stores here? Even like the bigger, not even like the startups, but the more national chains. But I don't know if there's a good answer for that yet. Maybe at some point. Talk about a little bit more about what you've been doing with yourself, with the store being closed. Now, people can order online and come and pick up, and you give it to them at the door, or how does that work?
Yeah, so the main method is just shipping out like normal. We put up free shipping as soon as this all started, and we decided to close our doors right after our anniversary party. So we had this big party planned, and I even contemplated canceling it in the beginning. But to think back even 6 weeks ago now, like things were so different. We didn't know what it meant, and information wasn't really being put out there the way it is now. And we probably should have canceled it. But it was like one last hurrah for us. And then we closed that Monday. We were trying to do appointment only in the beginning, and then decided very quickly, like it really is, it feels like a different lifetime, but to think about from the point of like, oh Jesus, what are we going to do? Okay, we're closed now. Appointment only. Oh no, not appointment only. People can't come in. Like, and then we were just in hustle mode. We started shooting those videos. We started realizing that highlighting almost every new release was a necessity, where in the past we didn't have the time. We would put it out, people would come in, and before we could even kind of do content on it, the product 2 or 3 would be out the door, and then the time value of money on that product is kind of shot, so you just let the rest of them sell through. But we started to realize, like, we got to get this in sync. We've got to have it on the website with the ability to link to click to go to the website to buy it all at the same time, and it has to be in this really synced manner. And then we can post the video of what we think about it, how it fits, all of this. And then it became second nature. And now it's just, like I said, part of the machine. But we just started interacting. I mean, I can't believe we were rolling into some really heavy interaction on Instagram anyways. We're talking like 130,000 hits in the week before our anniversary party. And that was because we had so much hype and so much product to release, and we've continued to carry that on. But just the level of interaction from people, I think people thirsting for human interaction has helped too. So being able to be on my phone all the time and react to people's comments, get back to people about sizing. We've really heavily focused on sizing and fit, and just pushed that idea that like we need to be interactive with people, and we need to respond as quickly as possible, and keeping that mindset. But it's crazy because it's changed our whole viewpoint on retail, right? So the typical thing is like shops are closed on Mondays, in Indianapolis, they're open the rest of the week, and shop owners kind of sit around and wait for people to walk in. And Tuesday through Thursday, that's not really the case. You'll get those hits every once in a while, but your big days are Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're contemplating moving to certain days of the week being appointment only and opening other days because it's been so successful, and even shortening our hours so we can spend more time doing what we're doing now because it's worked so well.
Wow. Yeah, there's definitely a silver lining to everything coming to, well, not everything, but almost everything coming to a standstill, right? Like people are reevaluating their business models, and it's a reset for so many folks because here's an opportunity to either update and pay attention to things that you've neglected because you've been so busy, or to shed unnecessary weight, if you will. So I like that a lot. I know that you carry a lot of brands, and you also have your own brand. What are you, any new plans? Are you plotting anything for your own brand? Are you making stuff?
Yeah. So fall is a little bit up in the air right now. All the plans we were making kind of just, I don't know if put on hold is the right word, just people aren't thinking about them as much. So I have to keep reminding the people that we were working with that we have these plans, and we intend to be open in the fall and intend to continue on with our collaborations and products that we're having made. I talked a little bit about in the article, the Naked and Famous collaboration we're doing. That's always been, ever since working with the brand, we started working with the brand 2 years ago. It's been a dream to have them do a pair of denim for us. So just got off an email yesterday about that, and that's still in the works. It's just weird. Things are moving a lot slower. Where I would have an answer in a day previously. Now it's like, well, we got to see when the wash house opens back up so we can see if we can rinse that pair of denim for you. We've got to see, and we were even contemplating doing proprietary denim, something that was developed in Japan for us, but the level of work and the timing on that is going to be so much harder now that we may just have to work within the realm of a fabric that's already created and do our own cut with it and our own design on the patches and adding our own little details. But that's definitely in the works. This morning, even I was thinking about how well tops are doing for us, and we released a jacket on our anniversary. And so I think I'm going to create kind of a in-stock line of these jackets that we've done with a brand called Billiam in North Carolina. But then again, like we were in the works on something and everyone just kind of stopped and started making masks. So there's nothing like better than seeing these companies pivot and be able to make money and also help people. But I'm also trying to wiggle myself in a little bit and see if we can still complete our projects for the fall. That's definitely the goal. I shouldn't say never, but I love telling the stories of other brands so much that I don't know that I ever want to be one of those stores where it's like 75% of my product is mine and only 25 is other people's. I see a lot of stores do that to bulk their margins, but I just love all these brands and I love all these stories so much that I don't know that I would be able to do that.
Hey Maria, are you familiar with any stores like Tommy's in Chicago? Is there like...
I'm not, but I'm sure they exist on some level, but I'm not really necessarily their target demographic. And to be honest, I haven't really gotten into the retail scene here in Chicago. I work on Michigan Avenue, and it's all big box stores. I know that retail here is kind of going the trend as we see in all the other cities, and that it's really expensive to rent space. And it's really hard for some of these independent stores to kind of make it and survive. You see a lot of stores kind of diversifying their product. I know Writer for Life is one, but they also do interior design. They're not just a fashion store. They have art and they have home decorating stuff. So I think the mix here, it's definitely a challenge, and Chicago's an expensive city, so independent retail is trickier here even probably than in Indianapolis.
Yeah, it's crazy. I guess how affordable it still is here in certain parts of the city, But going back on the question of like, what do we do to get retailers here? I think if people were to look at it from that perspective of like, I'm trying to open in Chicago and it's just not possible because the rent's so high, they might jump here and see that it is, but we'd have to show the viability of retail. But I think that's a major problem everywhere. Real estate developers and the people they have working for them just don't see the value in retail. They see a lot of the online movement and trends that it's crazy to me that you can try to fill an entire strip full of restaurants and not see how that's going to turn out poorly in the long run. And maybe it's going to take that, a lot of the restaurants failing and these spaces sitting vacant, but they've set themselves up for it. You can't put a retail space in a 4,600 square foot space. And that's what you see all over the city. Like you can, if you're Macy's or like a big box store, but nobody wants a Macy's on Mass Ave.
Yep. Yeah, very true. Yeah, we see that a lot, even with Startup 317, the spaces that are available to us to offer to potential vendors and participants in the program. They're all huge. There's no 500 square foot little spaces, which would be perfect for most of the people that we work with. So yeah, there's not good forethought. And also most of the places that we deal with that a brand new builds, nothing's built out. Like it's just a dirt floor and huge 5,000 square foot. And you're like, if you broke it up a little bit, we could actually fill it up with a bunch of people. But it's an interesting.
Splitting up of space seems like it's the most difficult thing in the world too.
I know,
and it's
like, isn't this what you guys do?
Yeah. I don't know. I work in real estate, so I probably shouldn't chime in on this. But I think too, it's challenging. I think retail has been one of the slower things to adapt in terms of real estate when you're looking at commercial spaces. I think we still have this big box mentality, and it's kind of like, why would you try and get 4 or 5 smaller brands or stores or owners into this large space that you have when you could just find that one flagship tenant? But I think a lot of what you're seeing too, even for some of the bigger brands, is they're moving away from a lot of those flagship spaces. They're moving online. Department stores aren't doing as well as what they were doing 5-10 years ago, for sure. So I think especially coming out of this pandemic, I think that's an area that potentially we could see a lot of change in. You can't rely on restaurants right now. Unfortunately, a lot of them are closing. They're takeout only. They've got these massive spaces and now this massive overhead that is becoming impossible or difficult, at the very least, for them to maintain. So I think it's going to be really interesting coming out of this whole situation to see how these spaces adapt. We might find a little more room for creativity for some of these smaller brands, simply because what's working right now isn't working.
No.
Yeah. It's all, it's like not the quarantine side of it, but the what you said about like department stores and flagship stores is all music to my ears, because I think that's only pushing forward the renaissance of small businesses. People, I know like the death of the mall means that there's a lot of people out of work, but those people can fill jobs in small businesses and other places. And I just think like, it's nice to have one space to go see all those things, but people should start voting with their dollars. It speaks to a larger problem. It's us saying that unfettered capitalism isn't working anymore, and that we want to support small businesses, and we've seen a direct correlation to that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that Indianapolis in particular could get really better at clustering. Like there's not a lot of thought given to where stores go and how communities and new builds happen. There's like huge gaps even on Mass Ave where you have like cluster of stores here and then there's like nothing for a half a mile. It's just like, who's thinking about those things? I'm not sure if anybody is. It'd be nice if somebody was, but the other thing though that I hear a lot from retailers here and brands here is that there isn't as much of a support for the local brand locally as there should be. So people can go and spend, $100 on an off-white t-shirt but they will not spend 45 on a shirt that was made by a local, say streetwear brand. And to that, Tommy, do you, like, is most of your clientele, do you know how many of them come from other cities versus are like local people? Would you agree that there could be a better support?
Yeah, I mean, we're starting to get new metrics now that would skew that more in your favor than what it previously was. I would say 6 months ago, 8 months ago, maybe even before our 5-year anniversary, that was a big momentum shift for us, changing our branding, becoming something that looks more like a national brand. I was always told that like the brand felt like it was bigger than it was. People were kind of satisfied to see that it was just us working here, because we did make it look bigger than it was, but that brand change definitely helped and pumped up our online business last year. And now, like with this shift in metrics, we have a thing full of orders sitting here from Boston. I've got one going to the UK tomorrow. Like, what else was there today? But like Quad State area too. So it's regional too. I get the Michigans, the Ohio's, Illinois, and Kentucky's. And I think that's the easiest route to branch out. But we are such a global economy now that like it's random, it's sporadic. Get a lot of Californias. And I think, I don't know, it's hard to answer that question right now, specifically because of that. Like the metrics have changed. Sure.
I had a question about your brand. I mean, with the rebrand, what did you practically do to move from what was maybe a homegrown brand to something that feels more national? Was it something specific? Is it how you just, the verbiage that you use when you promote online? I mean, what would you say it was? What's the biggest change?
I think the first step was just our growth as a store. Like when we doubled our size, it gave us the momentum and the ability to carry more product. We didn't see initial results from that, but we wouldn't be where we were without that. So it's all iterations. Like each iteration steps you up to a place, and then you look back and you realize, wow, like if I would have had more of my own brand on product, or more of a more legitimate looking brand done by a graphic designer instead of myself, like that it all started already. We were in motion. And so when we dropped the new branding, it just felt like it should be there. And then it all became this kind of crazy machine. But the verbiage didn't necessarily change. I think that's still the same, the way we tell the story, the way the social media has my voice, I think is still a big part of it. But sticking that branding on there and having that ability to work directly with my designer when I need something, or I need something for an anniversary, and reaching out to other designers and realizing that we had the potential to sell those things, instead of like, hey, I need to reach out to a designer and pay X and I'm only going to sell 12 of them. It doesn't make any sense. But when you reach that level where 40 or 50 people want to buy that thing, and you have that capacity. And so I think it's time and just a natural evolution. And we were just a little behind on getting our branding. We probably could have done it a year earlier and really stepped it up, but I don't have any like regrets for doing it the way we did. I think it was more impactful doing it on our 5-year.
Sure.
So that, and having these partnerships and connections lined up so that when we were ready to pop and use all of our new branding on stuff, we could just be like, hey, and starting early too. Like we do everything last minute. So I finally got ahead of this thing. But only because I'd been turning the gears in my head for 3 years about rebranding.
Totally get that. We're right now, our summer internship, obviously our spring interns couldn't work with us. And so we had all this extra time on our hands, and we're getting ready for the summer interns and just going through the processes of figuring out how to manage them and all the things that need to be in place to create a better structure for them to have the best experience. Yeah, there's always this refinement that happens where you're building on everything that you've learned. I can totally relate to that. So really, basically, it's just your magnetic personality at the end of the day in the brain, right?
You said that.
Well, I mean, you're the driver of the brand, and clearly your business sense combined with your understanding of trends and style and your aesthetic, all those things work together, and it's a unique combination because you've been successful and others, haven't. So kudos to you. I think that's amazing.
Thank you.
Talk about summer trends and fall trends. Like, what should the gentleman be looking forward to?
Man.
I'm trying to stump you. Like, you've had all the great answers for everything. I'm like, all
Tommy
right.
always has the answers.
Fall. Well, it's hard because we don't play in the typical trend cycle that most big brands do. We're kind of, I mean, that's the whole point of the Rebel thing, right? Is we're trying to create our own. This spring has been fucking wild. I mean, when is the last time you can remember this many chilly days in April, right? So I was planning for all short sleeves, no jackets, just dealing in lightweight gear because we're seeing more of a response to that in general. We haven't had the cold winters. And so I've got all this lightweight stuff coming in. I've kind of had to hold it because we've been able to sell our heavier gear because we're actually having a spring, but nobody can go outside. So it changes so rapidly, and every day something different comes out from a brand that I wasn't expecting to go well. We do a lot of raw denim stuff that's unwashed, and we've seen a response to washed goods, but not the denim necessarily. People kind of ask about it, and it's part of being part of developing yourself into a raw denim store is that you make that decision. I'm either going to carry washes or I'm not. And we decided not to, but we've had so many people reach out about tops being washed. The denim I'm wearing under here has a light wash to it. And so I think that the tops are shifting. People are still wearing raw denim, but river washes, stuff like that. What else am I seeing for fall? Like I said, everything feels like it was a lifetime ago. I got back from New York, and I would have had the answer for you like that if I could put together all my orders in my head. But
washes. It's kind of like paper. I feel like when we got into printing, which has been a while, but every year I learn something new. Every year, because we don't do a huge run, we have to paper keeps disappearing, mills keep closing down, and so I have to keep keeping up with all the different types of methods for making paper. And man, there's more than I ever wanted to know. I feel that's how denim washes are. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a depth to that whole thing. That's crazy.
Yeah. Part of me thinks
go ahead.
Go ahead, Maria.
Okay. I feel like I've learned so much about denim, even just watching your Instagram. I know nothing. Fully admit that. But watching, you do a lot of education, I feel about how to age your denim, and you're doing something with wallets right now.
Yeah. So we've got a competition going on where the type of wallet that we were selling yesterday, we sold out of them, creates a really unique fade in the denim. It's like how the phone is a very recognizable fade, even in washed denim, it usually shows up because it's so stark. These wallets do the same thing. And so I realized that in 6 or 7 of my pairs, I had this LM wallet fade, and I posted about it just randomly. I mean, I'm navigating my way through this, and I was at home and I pulled all these pairs out, and I was like, holy shit, this looks really cool. And just panned through all the denim, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. You should sell some more of these wallets. Do you have the Snap wallets? And it was I don't know, just what's the term for that? Something went off in my head. And I was like, we need to do a competition for this. And people have freaked out over it. So it's silly in a sense. We've learned to not take ourselves so seriously. I think a lot of brands do. And that's something that has kept people from getting involved in fashion when they want to. They don't, because it feels so out there. It feels so unreachable. And we've made it reachable. It's fun to be silly. Some of the most successful stores we know out on the West Coast are silly with it, and they're real. And that's what we do. I make decisions obviously about the path that I want this store to go in, and I buy based on what I like and how I see us trending. And I don't buy things because out of principle for some things, like the washes we were talking about. For the longest time, I still don't do it in the denim because it takes such a process to get them there when you can do it yourself and they look even better. So yeah, that education process is fun, and I think that's kind of where we're going to land as a store that doesn't follow trends but makes our own, we hope.
Sounds like a good plan to me. I don't know. How many pairs of jeans do you actually have? Do you know?
I haven't counted. I counted beanies the other day and it was like 31. My pants are probably up there, like not that high, but maybe. There's stuff that it's crazy because people give you things too, like when brands are courting you or trying to get you to buy their stuff. So I have stuff that's like, well, I'll keep that for a work pair because it doesn't really fit well and it's just tucked away. But pairs that I actually wear, it's like 3 or 4 at a time that are in rotation that I'm trying to fade.
Okay. So what's the story with never washing your jeans? I find that sort of disturbing.
So the concept and the education on that has kind of changed over the last few years. When I got into this 5 years ago, you would see these dudes that didn't wash their denim for 2 years. I still kind of land on that side of like 8 months to a year and a half. And I'm not doing strenuous activity in these things. Like it's working in a retail space, which can get dusty and dirty and all of that, but I'm not working out in raw denim.
Sure. Good.
The concept is the way it fades. So denim is made up of lots of parts, but 2 of the main parts are the cotton and the indigo and a raw pair. And the way someone described it to me once was that cotton and indigo have been fighting this age-old battle, and indigo kind of always wins. It does what's called crocking. It sloughs off. Even on the pairs that have been heavily washed, the indigo is still fighting to get away from the cotton. They don't like each other chemically. So when they initially developed denim, it was more as a workwear thing. Guys didn't care about how it faded. They just wore it and they liked the way it looked in indigo. And it was an alternative to a pantaloon. Like they were wearing wool to work in and they would bust seams because there were no rivets. So they added rivets. They figured out that cotton in the form of twill and denim was really, really sturdy. So they started making that. And as they wore it to work in, they didn't really understand the wash process back then. They just dyed it indigo and let it go. And so they developed these really crazy fades, and that's where the culture came from, mostly from the Japanese who held on to it while we let go of it and started acid washing everything and making everything super blown out. They were like, nope, stick to the Levi's 501. Like, we're going to keep it right here. And then that came back into the Americas in like 2002, 2004.
Wow.
But it's a process. The non-washing is a process of getting them as faded as you can without taking away that indigo unnaturally. So you're trying to get as much of the indigo to crock off as you can without washing them.
So how do you care for jeans then, for raw denim?
How do you what for them?
Like, how do you care for them? If you say you get them a little dirty, how do you care for them?
Yeah, what we found is a lot of the stuff is so heavy that even like if you got paint on your pants, if you wore it for another 2 weeks, the paint would probably just flick right off. Like it's heavy duty. So that kind of stuff, guys are crazy about it. They'll just like let it sit. I mean, we've had like the dads and stuff be like, yeah, I can't deal with the smell of like milk or whatever from their babies. Like that's the one thing where guys have had to wash them, but it's just treating them gentle, washing it like people used to, you know, they did everything by hand. So if you really care about that one pair of denim, like, is it really that much of an effort to soak them in a bathtub for 30 minutes, you know? And we found that guys really want to do it because they're chasing those really pretty fades. So the general steps are turning the pair of denim inside out. That helps you lose as little indigo as you can. Using some kind of fabric care that is gentle or is meant to keep the colors in. So like a Woolite Dark, but there's a lot of smaller brands that make their own denim washes that are more natural and built to not hurt the denim too much. And then letting them kind of soak for 30 to 45 minutes, but also agitating it with your hands. What we found is one of the biggest detriments to clothing in kind of this like throwaway culture that we have now is the invention of the washer and the dryer. They did it to essentially make people's lives easier, not keep the retention of clothing. And with a lot of brands that make stuff that's built to have a certain life expectancy, like the more you put it in the washer, the quicker that seam's going to pop. Where our stuff isn't made like that, it's still, you're putting it in a machine that's just built to get the job done as quickly as possible, not take care of your product, and you can make stuff last a lot longer. So taking that extra time to hand wash stuff that you really love. I mean, people do it with their cashmere sweaters and things like that. So why not do it with a really nice pair of denim?
Very, very true. Dang, dude, you know way too much about this. That's like crazy. So I was going to show you. So we did a Q&A with you, and Rebecca takes such beautiful pictures, your wife. We had a really hard time narrowing down what it was going to look like, but this is kind of where we ended up. Super iconic. You behind the cash wrap, and see, we got here. Look, you're a retail risk taker, curator, and a storyteller. I think we nailed it, right?
Yeah, I haven't actually seen it yet. I saw it in the big post when you guys did all of the magazine laid out on the floor.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had to like hunt for it to find it. But yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, we'll try and share. I think, eventually this story will end up on digital, and we'll share more of the photos of the store and some more portraits of you, because you look good. The store looks great. It's really cool having something like this in Indy that people can appreciate and point friends to. I hope that, we make some more progress as it pertains to fashion retail here in Indy, but it's definitely an uphill. But really appreciate both of you guys for spending some time with me here. We are looking forward to putting the magazine into the hands of a bunch of people tomorrow at our drive-by launch party. That should be interesting. I'm kind of really curious how that's going to go. We just got like 40 cones from the city to try and make sure that people don't do anything silly in the parking lot. We're going to be in the Center Point brewery parking lot, so people can swing around. So that'll be an experiment. But Maria, are you going to be back for that? Are you coming?
I'm actually heading to Indy for the month of May, just to be around family. So I'm going to try. We'll see. It depends on timing when I get out of here.
Okay. Well, we'll be there at 3 to 6:30. So come on down.
Maybe I'll see you. Yeah.
Nice. I mean, I don't know.
I'll try and come join the party.
There you go. Just, BYO.
Socially distanced.
Drive by. I'll have a vodka in my hand and we'll just do the cheers thing.
Sounds about right.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. My battery's about to die, so I want to make sure that I capture this. But appreciate you stopping by and chatting with me. Tommy, good luck with everything. Congrats on your success. Very exciting. We're super proud of you.
Thank you.
Glad to have you in the city.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the magazine, and I want to give a shout out to GP about kind of mentioning me for it in the first place. So he's a good guy, and keep a lookout for all the people who are moving the city forward in this magazine. It's really killer.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And we'll talk to you guys soon.
See you later.
Bye, guys.